Hey everyone, welcome to the second episode of a series I want to call Sarah Unscripted. Today is a topic that was highly requested in the comments of the first episode, which is anti-blackness in the Asian community. And I'm very pleasantly surprised that so many people wanted this discussion to happen because it really doesn't happen enough. So that's what I want to talk about today, along with some tangible things that we can do to try to solve this problem. I think at this point it's pretty clear that anti-blackness is very pervasive in the Asian community, from people like Latasha Harlins, a 15-year-old black girl who was shot in the back of the head by a Korean store owner over orange juice, to the recent incident where a black woman was choked by an Asian store owner because he thought she committed theft, to the aftermath of the Peter Liang case and the protest that came afterwards. So I just want to start a discussion on what we can do as non-black women of color, as allies, what we can do to make this better. And of course, I'm speaking as someone who has never experienced anti-blackness. Any comments or suggestions would be highly appreciated. So one of the ways in which the racial category of Asian has been used to weaponize against Black and Latinx communities is through the model minority myth. Now, of course, not all Asians can be marked as the model minority. Who this term includes or excludes is still negotiated and changing all the time. But nonetheless, I still think it's harmful and worthy of discussion. So the model minority myth is basically the myth that Asian people in America has better upward mobility. They are able to reach higher socioeconomic status over other minorities, that they have fully assimilated to the American way of life. And the purpose of this myth is to delegitimize the Black and Latinx protests, to put the blame of oppression on the oppressed rather than the oppressor. And of course, Asians can be victims of racism, but we can also be the perpetrators. And one of the ways we do that is by buying into the model minority myth. A lot of times what this means is that we're silent and complicit when acts of injustices are happening. Several studies have shown that the Asian voter turnout is lower than other minority groups. So one of the first things I thought of is to be a louder ally. What this means is a higher turnout at Black Lives Matter protests, or voting for the candidate that protects minority rights, and just generally being more visible and showing solidarity with the Black protests, because the dominant narrative always sees Latinx and Black protesters as thugs and criminals. So when their precious model minority joins the protest and shows solidarity in a visible way, not only does it put more pressure on the state, but it just kind of subverts the model minority myth. This is an excerpt from The Emergence of Yellow Power, written by activist Amy Yumimatsu in 1969. It is a rejection of the passive Oriental stereotype and symbolizes the birth of a new Asian, one who will recognize and deal with injustices. The shout of yellow power, symbolic of our new direction, is reverberating in the quiet corridors of the Asian community. The second thing that I thought of is calling out colorism. Colorism is systematically privileging light skin over dark skin, and this can happen within your own race. For example, in general, Chinese and Japanese people are privileged over Filipinx people, even though they're both in the Asian race. Even though colorism and anti-blackness are not the same thing, one of the underlying assumptions of colorism is that dark skin is less valuable, which perpetuates anti-blackness in the Asian community. The easiest way that you can spot this, and my biggest encounter with colorism, is every single time I'm in Hong Kong trying to buy a foundation. Without fail, the person who is selling me the foundation will ask me if I want my foundation in a lighter shade. In a lot of Asian countries, it is an expectation for your skin to be as pale as possible, and that's the standard of beauty that everybody should strive for. People would often bleach their skin. One of the things that I've seen a lot among my Chinese friends on Instagram is that they like to use the darkest skin emoji, and they use it ironically because obviously they're not that dark skin, and it would obviously be a joke to be that dark skin. And this is something that most people don't immediately think of as anti-black. Even when we look at models and movies and who's being represented in the media, it's so difficult to find one dark-skinned celebrity from your country who is often depicted as beautiful. In Hong Kong, a lot of the times what we think is beautiful are people like Fan Bingbing, who has a super slim nose and really pale skin. So I think we need to do a lot of work to unlearn the idea that light skin means better and try to educate others as well. Third thing that I can think of is to stop appropriating Black people's culture. A lot of times Asian people would wear hairstyles or clothing that are traditionally Black, or use a lot of AAVE. And this doesn't just stop at clothing and style. Things like Yellow Lives Matter that happened right after Black Lives Matter, or asking for an Asian History Month when Black History Month is happening. Even though there is an Asian History Month that people just don't care about until Black History Month comes around. There are so many examples of us appropriating Black culture and co-opting Black protests. And the reason why it's bad is because when your favorite K-pop idol wears a traditionally Black hairstyle, people think it's edgy, people think it's cool, people profit off of it, whether it's money or social capital. model. Whereas when black people wear these hairstyles that are natural to them, they get prosecuted for it, they get profiled, they're denied of job offers, they aren't let into high schools, they're banned from schools for being too improper. I think this comparison highlights the fact that even though we're both minorities, Asians who are not black benefit from non-black privilege. And I think it's silly to think that all oppression happens the same, that because we're part of a minority group that we can do whatever we want. So just be more self-reflexive. So yeah, I just thought that this is important to talk about, because a lot of times when we think about tackling anti-blackness within our communities, we automatically think how we should talk to our parents about it, but we don't think about the responsibility that we have. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful. I would love to hear your thoughts and let me know what topic you would like me to cover next, and I'll see you next week. Bye.